In May of 2017, a school trip awarded to the girls of Jamaica Girls Academy for an outstanding academic year in good behaviour took a horrific turn of events when an 11-year-old girl was thrown from the Splash Canyon River Rapids ride to her death. The tragic and avoidable incident sent shockwaves around the United Kingdom, but also unravelled and exposed a series of mistakes and systematic failings that could have prevented the young girl's demise. This is the infamous story of Evha Jannath and the Splash Canyon disaster. The date was the 9th of May 2017, which saw Evha Jannath and her classmates visit Drayton Manor theme park for a school trip as a reward for their grades and good behaviour. Evha had just turned 11 years old, with her birthday being 4 days before the incident. She was described as a quiet and pretty girl who was always smiling, full of love, and showed great promise at school. According to her principal, she was a lovely, sweet-natured girl and she was loved by everyone. Leading up towards the school trip, Evha had been ill. Her friends didn't believe that she was going to come, but unfortunately, she did. All of the children, including Evha, were excited for the trip as they arrived at Drayton Manor theme park in the morning, ready to start their day. If you live in England, you've probably heard of Drayton Manor, but for my friends across the world, Drayton Manor is a theme park, resort and zoo located in Staffordshire, which opened in 1949. The theme park is famous for having over 100 rides and attractions, as well as their 4-star hotel. On that day, the children were split into groups. The older children were left unsupervised, whilst the younger groups, including Evha, were split into groups of 6 with one teacher looking after them. They had now been there for a few hours and wanted to ride the Splash Canyon River Rapids ride. A staff member who had been with the group waited by the ride's exit with a student who didn't want to get on the ride. As the children were all over the height requirement of 1.1 meters, they were allowed on the ride without an adult. According to the teacher, the group had been behaving well on other rides, so she had no worries about them riding on their own. The police stated, "We can't stipulate teachers must be on rides, as there will be instances where some other children would not wish to be on the ride, and so in those cases, it is safer overall for a teacher to stay with that child." Debuting in 1993, riders are sent down a rough river in a boat which contains 6 people. The boat spins and bounces off each side until it reaches the end. The ride features a tunnel, fast flowing sections and water jets, which ensures no rider stays dry. There had been many issues raised about the ride before, but I will get into that later on in the video. As the ride went on, it was clear that it was an accident waiting to happen. According to the detective, the unsupervised children were playing around in the boat. The riders are positioned in a circle and instructed to remain in their seats whilst holding onto the central railing, but this was not happening. He explained, "We know children act in different ways, and you will see, sadly, that not just Evha, but other children did not adhere to the rules of the ride. At no point did we see her sat on the ride." The following was caught on their CCTV. Towards the end of the ride, Evha stood up in the boat. As she did this, the boat hit the sidewall and sent Evha headfirst into the water on the side of the ride. The water here was only about 80 centimeters deep, so she wasn't in any harm. Evha held onto the sidewall as she walked along the side towards the travelator. At this point, a bystander told Evha to stay still, but she waded through the water towards the travelator. The travelator is a wooden conveyor belt which lifts the boat out of the water at the end of the ride. Her friends were screaming for help as she made her way to the travelator. Once she got there, she proceeded to climb up the ramp, but the ramp was very slippery. This caused Evha to slip down and fall into the waters below. She fell into the water, which was 12 feet deep, and the rapids dragged Evha under. Evha couldn't swim. The alarm was raised, but it took 18 minutes for staff to relocate her. She was now dead, face down in the water.
An 11-year-old girl thought to be from Leicester has died after an incident at the Drayton Manor theme park in the West Midlands. It's thought she fell into the water from one of the rides. Daniela Ralph reports.
The air ambulance arriving after being called to one of the country's biggest theme parks. It landed in the grounds of Drayton Manor in Staffordshire, following an incident at around 2:20 this afternoon. Also on site, other emergency services, responding to reports that a child had fallen from a water ride at the theme park. It's now been confirmed that an 11-year-old girl from the Leicester area died after being airlifted to Birmingham Children's Hospital. She'd been at Drayton Manor on a school trip.
A week after the incident, an investigation was launched which found a multitude of failings and mistakes that could have prevented Eva's death. It turned out that many people before Eva had fallen into the river at Splash Canyon doing the same thing. Just on that day alone, a review of the CCTV footage revealed that there were 70 incidents of people standing up on the ride without a member of staff telling them to sit down. Due to there only being 2 members of staff operating the ride, monitoring of the CCTV footage was limited, so they didn't see Eva falling into the river. It had also come out that a mother had sent a letter to Drayton Manor about the risks of Splash Canyon back in 2013, 5 years earlier. Her 10-year-old son had fallen into the river on the same ride. The mother claimed if there had been another boat close to him, he would have been crushed. Luckily, he was pulled out of the water, but Drayton Manor never responded to her concerns. Staff members were not trained in water rescue and didn't have the right equipment to aid someone if they had fallen in. The warning signs around the ride were inadequate in spelling out the consequences of falling in. The coroner stated in the investigation, "In my opinion, there is a risk that future deaths will occur unless action is taken." The family of Eva went on to sue Drayton Manor for £1 million. It concluded that the accident should have never happened and that Drayton Manor's operators failed to take action that could have prevented her death. Drayton Manor admitted to breaching the Health and Safety Act and failed to act on the dangers. The ride was then decommissioned and closed down for a number of years before reopening in 2021 after considerable safety improvements were made. The conclusion of the inquest was accidental death. Due to Drayton Manor then going into administration, the fine was never paid. The family of Evha Jannath issued a statement saying, "We entrusted Eva's care and safety to the school and to Drayton Manor. It has become apparent that Eva was not supervised on the Splash Canyon ride as it went down the rapids. While Drayton Manor said the ride was supervised with CCTV, no member of staff saw her fall into the water. We miss our daughter, sister, and niece every day. Eva was a bright and happy young girl who had great hopes for the future. Sadly, we will not be able to see her realise her dreams." Eva was buried in Saffron Hill Cemetery in Leicester, where more than 100 people attended the service, many that didn't know the family. Relatives, community members, and pupils from the school attended the event to express their support. Although this incident is horrendous, it has shone a light on critical safety issues that can now save people in the future. I hope their family have found peace and have managed to move on.
Eva's friends were given time off school this morning to visit Eva's family and say goodbye to Eva. In Eva's memory, we have closed the school this afternoon. Tomorrow, we will resume class, but with a heavy heart, knowing that we do so without Eva.